Welcome to Vampire Radio!
Hola, hola, hola. You are listening or watching Vampire Radio here on the Vampire Radio Network. Thank you guys for joining me. I swear my electronics have just been all over the place for weeks. Okay, so the last time we hung out, it was 4th of July. And that's when we had the whole Wake and Bake revisit. All good, right? Well, kinda. So I was using for the intro and outro my old microphone and a lot of in and outs. It sucked, but I made it through. I got it through. And then my software, my editing software kept messing up. And then uploading it to Podbean, it kept messing up. It was just one of those things where something didn't want me to post the dang episode. So if you haven't listened to it, you better go over and listen to it after this episode because it's a really good one. I feel the last Vampire Radio really highlights my whole journey in a nutshell as far as content creating and where it fit in and where wrestling ended and the content creating began. People like Ralph Garman and Rod and people like that who've inspired me. And then we had some ghost stories. It's a great episode. You got to check it out. And even though I had to revisit the dang episode, like I listened to it in entirety about 4 or 5 times. And it's an hour and 13 minutes. So, because every time I edit some stuff, I was scared that the whole thing could possibly get like messed up or I can make a mistake, especially when I'm in that space of reviewing it over and over and over and over. And it's just like easier to make a mistake, I feel, when you're in that vibe. So, oh my goodness, it was such a journey. I wanted to give up, but I knew not to. And I pulled it through. So, again, if you haven't listened to it already, check it out after this episode. Well, for today, we are going to revisit an interview that I did back in November. The interview I did was with somebody who I met through wrestling, but have also worked with outside of wrestling. And it was just such a great interview because at the time of the interview, I needed AJ's energy. And then when I was revisiting when I was revisiting the episode to add on to this week's show, present Shelly needed to hear a lot of the stuff that was discussed in there. And some of it I forgot about. I was like, oh my goodness, I totally forgot we even talked about all that. So I hope you guys really enjoy it. Right now, I give you my interview with the man, AJ Kirsch. He is a commentator. He is the Rock the Promo champion. He's in wrestling. He's an ordained minister. He loves Burning Man. And you know what? He is the author of It's Probably Fine. What does that mean? Well, you'll find out right here with this awesome interview with AJ Kirsch.
All right. Welcome, AJ, to Vampire Radio and being one of my guests. You're my second guest now on the actual Vampire Radio. Like, I have a million podcasts, as you know. So Thanks for being my guest today.
My God, my pleasure. I'm so happy that you reached out to me. And I mean, you and I have known each other, I think, for like almost 10 years at this point. It was when you first started coming around Hoodslam, and I want to say 2013, definitely 2014. It may have been as long ago as 2013. And I've just always loved seeing you and working with you. You're always a ton of fun. I'm super happy we're friends. So like when you reached out to invite me on the show, of course, like it's a no-brainer. I'd love to just chat and catch up. And what a joy to do it on Vampire Radio.
There you have it. Well, here's the thing. I just think you're so interesting because you wear so many hats, and we're gonna get into that in a minute. But the hats you wear themselves are so just interesting. And I feel like, you know what? Let's get down. Like, not only for the listeners, it's like I want to know. I want to know more.
Yeah.
What is behind all this? So,
Right.
first of all, we have to talk of course, our connection, which is wrestling, and that was through Hoodslam. So, tell me, how did you land yourself the commentator spot and party bro, if you will, of Hoodslam?
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Hoodslam is a 21 and over like pro wrestling party. Like it takes everything that you think you know about pro wrestling, absolutely turns it on its head. It is a very unapologetic promotion. It's very it advocates for LGBTQ inclusivity, women's inclusivity. Like it takes a lot of the not so flattering parts of pro wrestling's past, and it says that's wrong. That's part of the things that are wrong with pro wrestling. Let's turn that on its head and emphasize LGBTQ performers and female performers and femme identifying performers. But it's also 21 and over, so we can we have limitless creative freedom. We can drop as many F-bombs as we want. We have characters that embrace drug culture. One of our war cry. Can I swear on this, by the way? We didn't talk about this. Oh, fuck yeah. And one of our slogans is fuck the fans, because part of the attitude is like, this is as much for us, the performers, as it is for the fans. But at the beginning of every show, the fans are chanting, fuck the fans, fuck the fans. So it's like, it's pro wrestling with a wink and a smile. Like, we're not trying to maintain the illusion that this is real, even though this is real is one of our other slogans. We're just giving you such a fun show that we're going to make you forget that it's a performance. And that's exactly what happens. And so I first came to Hoodslam shortly after my time during season 5 of WWE Tough Enough, which was back in 2011. And it's insane to me that was almost 12 years ago. I made it 8 out of 10 episodes. And so almost made it. Admittedly, I know I was that close. But I had my shining moment on the show when Dwayne Johnson declared me the winner of the promo skills challenge. He was like, of the remaining contestants, this guy's got a command on the mic like nobody else, which of course felt amazing. And it was in that moment where I was like, well, I'm on WWE's radar, because WWE was always the goal. Like, since I was a kid, I wanted to be a pro wrestler with WWE, a main event WrestleMania, blah, 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 blah. And so now I'm on WWE's radar after Tough Enough. And I know that a lot of people, even if they don't win Tough Enough, they go on to get signed. Miz is a perfect example. Didn't win, but obviously went on to have an amazing career. And so it was in that moment winning the skills challenge that I was like, if I'm not seen as a valuable commodity by WWE in the ring, what else can I do to make myself a more valuable talent overall? And so that's when I started to pivot my attention toward, I was still wrestling as much as possible. I was riding that Tough Enough wave as long as I could, but I was pivoting some of my attention to hosting, ring announcing, and commentary. I started to less want to be like Shawn Michaels and more want to be like Bobby Heenan, where like you could put me in any role in with a microphone, a headset, a manager, a referee, like literally anything, and I'd be able to deliver. And so part of the advice I got from Bill DeMott, who was one of the trainers on Tough Enough, was work as many places as you can. Like, make it less about the payout or who you're wrestling or how many people are watching. Just work as many places as you can. And so I just started living in Berkeley, where I still am to this day. And Hoodslam had started, I think, like a year and a half earlier. And it was just a warehouse show in front of like 20 people at the time. They had just moved to the Oakland Metro Opera House. And it was a show that was just, 15 minutes away, and I wasn't working it, and I wanted to contribute. I wanted to work as many places as possible. So I reached out to Sheik, the owner and promoter, just an absolute brilliant mind. One of, if not the most brilliant minds I've ever come across in wrestling or anywhere else for that matter. Just cosmically creative. and she agreed to give me a shot on commentary. And so it was soon after starting at Hoodslam that I realized these fans don't care that I was on Tough Enough, because they're not your typical wrestling fans. They're just people out and about wanting to have a good time on a Friday night. So I was like getting kind of bored with being just, hey, I'm AJ from Tough Enough, and I was on TV, and come on, baby. Like, that was boring. I was so bored with that. I was so bored just being like, I'm on TV, yay me, cheer for me, babyface. At Hoodslam, I had the freedom to be a completely different character. And so I wanted to be a heel because I'd been a babyface for so long. And so I kind of looked at the audience that was like coming to Hoodslam, and I was like, what character would this crowd like unanimously hate? Like, I'm out the curtain for 3 seconds and they're immediately like, fuck this guy. And so I took some bits and pieces from my own life, my own experience, one of which was I was a bouncer in San Francisco's douchiest neighborhood for years. So I was just around that kind of chest puffing, one-ups personship culture. I went to school at Chico State, which is a notorious party school. Definitely had my fun. Was never in a frat, but I was like around frat culture all the time. And in real life, I was a gym rat, still am. And I unironically, shamelessly, loudly fucking love Nickelback. Love them. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, everybody, thank you. Yes, thank you. Everybody knows and loves at least one Nickelback song. If you say you don't, you're a fucking liar. So I put all those pieces together, and of course, as the phrase goes, just crank the volume up on all of them to create an over-the-top character that I named Broseph Joe Brody. And even just hearing the name, like everybody I've told about the character, even if they've never been to a Hoodslam, they're immediately, it was that reaction. It was like kind of an eye roll, kind of a chuckle, kind of a cringe, because like everybody knows that guy. Everybody knows at least one that guy. And that's something else I wanted to do with this character, was to make it relatable, like make it feel like this human could actually exist. So yeah, my entrance music was Nickelback. I came out and sprayed Axe body spray on myself. I always had a bottle of whiskey that I would like sip and then spit into the air. And Broseph Joe Brody was born. And little did I know at the time, but that character would allow me to grow into the performer that I wasn't yet. And like, I wasn't ready for WWE when I was on Tough Enough. I lasted longer than I probably should have, because another competitor, Martin Casaus, who is, again, just insanely talented, he got hurt. He had to leave, so he was eliminated that week. But anyway, I just I don't know where I would be today in wrestling and out of wrestling had it not been for the Broseph character.
I love that, because I feel you'll get me on this. Maybe not all the listeners or viewers will understand this, but that's okay. It's not for everyone to understand. That not a lot of people in the wrestling business kind of can look at it that way. And it's a shame, because I've seen people who they're so wrapped up on the other parts of wrestling that kind of be distracting. They're not realizing that these things are forming them. And like, if you allow it to, you know what I'm saying? In that journey. And I just love that story. And I'm so glad that you're sharing it here, because I feel the younger generation of wrestlers need to hear like that. Like, that's because for me, when I got into wrestling and I started going to wrestling training, and I'd hear like the vets kind of talk in that vein of like, that's what I wanted, is like the memories, the
Growth,
experiences, and that just leads to that growth. Like, I was always craving that. It wasn't ever okay with just whatever. And that's everyone's own journey. But I just feel it's important for that to be talked about, because as far as what I see, I don't really see people pushing that, like, and like people will tell their story, whatever, but it's also important to like give props where props are due. It's like this character that fate aligned you with that's why who you are today. And to some people, they look at that character and be like, what? How does that even make sense? But it's
Right.
like it's a personal thing. And
Right.
I've seen people in the business not live the best life that they could internally because they're not realizing that part of it, that beauty side of the
Mhm.
business. Like, yeah, there's going to be things and whatever, but that's life. It's like, I really, it breaks my heart to see people be broken down because they're so focused on what didn't happen, what didn't work out versus look at what didn't work out brought you. Look at what that didn't
Right.
happen gave you. And it's just not talked about. So yay,
Yeah.
Broseph.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. But it's tough too, because like I was depressed after getting eliminated from Tough Enough. I was so close to achieving this dream that I have been working so hard for that has consumed my entire adult life. I was depressed. I didn't really know what to do with myself other than I knew, and again, this shot in February and March, and it wasn't going to air until June, or I think it started airing the day after WrestleMania 27, and then the finale was in June. So it was just sitting with this disappointment, and it's selfish. It's selfish to kind of be like, I was on Tough Enough, but I didn't win, so I was disappointed. Nobody was on Tough Enough to lose, though. You know what I mean? I didn't go to Tough Enough to not win a contract with WWE. So when I got, and don't get me wrong, I'm, again, eternally grateful for Tough Enough because that was the catalyst for my pro wrestling career. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I do believe you can be grateful for what you have and still not be satisfied. And so, I'm beyond grateful for the moments I've had in and around wrestling. If you had told 12-year-old me what 40-year-old me would have experienced, 12-year-old me would have been like, get out of here. No way. No way. Where'd you come from? This is weird. What's going on? So I'm always, always grateful for my journey in wrestling. But I wasn't satisfied not winning Tough Enough. So there was the disappointment, but within the disappointment, there was this new sense of, okay, what am I going to do now? How am I going to use this wave of exposure to the best of my ability, but also develop as a talent and as a human? I credit DDP with this quote, even though I don't think he was the person to originate it, where life is 5% what happens to you and 95% how you react to it. And so I'm constantly, grateful for where I am, but even now, I'm I still got stuff I want to do. I'm not satisfied yet. I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
Well, that's the passion. And it's okay to still have that passion. I guess what I'm saying is for me, my career is filled with those almost moments that just didn't happen and for whatever reason. And some of them are real crappy reasons that were political reasons. So I, throughout my journey, would try to seek out on YouTube, videos of wrestlers that did way more than I ever did that weren't in the business anymore or whatever. I felt kind of alone. And it was hard for me to find footage out there of other wrestlers that felt the way I did. I'm not saying that they didn't, but that information just wasn't out there. And now that we're in what's that?
It's tough to talk about. It's not the typical story that people seek out when they seek out these stories.
Exactly. And so it wasn't talked about. And then now that social media and platforms are what they are and people share certain things and a lot of the other side of things are coming out, I still feel that this kind of conversation is few and far between because you have the disappointments and you can have a good day where you're like, oh, it's fine, everything's meant to be. And then you can have one day where you're like, why wasn't I good enough? Or why didn't this happen? Or like whatever. And that can eat at you. So like that's normal being a human. But I think that this conversation should be talked about more, because I feel like in this day and age where people just like look up, like, you know, I'm a wrestler that's depressed, like, and then something pops up with wrestlers talking about being depressed about it. And I feel like they talk about it in a way, but like that battle, because like my life, if those things worked out that I felt were like taken from me, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I wouldn't have the people I have in my life. I wouldn't have my life that I have at home. And I wouldn't change that for anything. But there's still those days where I get upset,
Right.
especially like because X, Y, and Z happen and then it triggers me. So that's what I feel that's always going to be a struggle. But we're vets now, AJ. And so
It's crazy.
we owe it to the business and those youngins to know, if you ever feel these feelings, like, you know what, maybe I should just sit here and take a step back and like look at it in this way after watching this video, let's say. That's what the business needs. That's what the business deserves. And as vets, that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be paying forward our experiences and our energy to help the ones before us. And if we can help them get there faster than we did, because it took us to be in our 40s, if they can get it in their 30s, maybe, like, that's really cool. And I think that that'll help the energy that some people that might come across it, specifically in the business. No offense to people that aren't, but that's where my passion and heart is. As much as I hate it, it's still, it's my heart and soul, damn it.
Right.
It's just, and I just love that outlook and what you're throwing out there, because people need to hear that from guys too. Like my audience hears it from me, but they need to hear, like, dudes go through this too. It's not just because I'm a female. You know what I'm saying?
No one's immune to feelings. Like we all feel, we share far more of the same feelings than I think the perception is. Like we're so much more in common, men, women, and everybody beyond, and classified otherwise. Like we're all humans. Like we all have similar experiences, and it's okay to feel shitty. It's okay to feel shitty feelings. Everybody is going to feel them at some point. And I think we would be a lot better off if we were quicker to just sit with it. Just sit with the shitty feelings and just be like, less like, I don't want to feel shitty. This doesn't feel good. It's kind of the point. Like if we're going to have really good feelings and they're out there, then we also need to be prepared to weather the shitty feelings. And like, there are healthy ways to deal with them, and there are unhealthy ways to deal with them. And we're not that far removed from a generation that the kind of commonplace is bottle it up, don't talk about it, head down, push forward, keep doing your job, and you deal with them. Don't burden anybody else with your feelings. And that could not be more fucked up. That could not be further from the truth. Like, there are people out there that feel the same way you do. There are people out there that love you and want to help you navigate these feelings so you can ultimately get through it. Not sprint through it, but like, you need to kind of give these feelings the time and attention they deserve, because they're not going anywhere. You can try to drink them away or distract yourself or drug them away or whatever. And I'm not saying there aren't places for doing what you can to be present and like try to deprioritize those shitty feelings, but they're going to be waiting for you when those drugs wear off, or when, and I'm not saying don't do drugs. I'm just saying, like, if a lot of people turn to drugs, but when they inevitably run out or when they inevitably come down, those shitty feelings are still going to be there and they need to be dealt with. So there's a phrase that I really like where it's, instead of calling out someone or like trying to call out a shitty feeling, call in, like invite it in, like get close to it, get to know it a little bit, get to understand where these feelings are coming from, and like come up with some healthy ways to deal with them. Like maybe you message or call a friend, or you go to the gym, or you meditate, or you go for a walk, or something that just allows you, for me, it's swimming. Like I love getting in the pool, putting in some earplugs, and just swimming laps because it gets me in touch with my body, in touch with my breath. No screens, no phones, no music. It's just me in here, and that allows me to get in here. And that might change. It may not always be swimming, and I realize I'm kind of talking in circles at this point, but my point is...
No, you're not. You're not
Okay,
at all.
cool. My point is, like, these feelings are going to come. We are going to be far better equipped on how to deal with these feelings in a healthy way if we invite them in and just sit with them. And to your point too, like, everybody's on a different timeline. Like, there is, depending on where you want to end up in wrestling, like, WWE seems to be operating under this idea that younger is better. They have more time to groom you to be what they want you to be. But LA Knight's having the run of his career, and he's a year or two away from 40. Randy Orton's never looked better. AJ Styles is like, what, 42, 3, 4? I don't know. He's in his early 40s. Like, some of the top names in the entire business are doing the absolute best work of their career. And it takes everybody a different timeline to, one, get it. Like, some folks go their entire career without getting it. And I feel like I'm just now really starting to get it. And then some folks go their entire career without finding that character or finding that voice or confidence or whatever it is. You never really know when it's all going to click. But when it does, it feels incredible.
I have a friend, ACR, Amanda Rodriguez, and she said she calls those moments the wrestlegasm. And I think that's such a cool way to describe it. She's like, we're always looking for that next wrestlegasm, like that wrestlegasm. And that's what, when I got it, that's what happened. And I was like, everything went into place. I was like, oh, and I did wrestling for 17 years. And it wasn't until I was 3-4 years out of wrestling that I truly was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And I love that you brought that up too, because it, like, everybody goes through different phases of being in and out of love with wrestling. It's not always a harmonious relationship. And sometimes the most important relationships in your life are not always harmonious. You don't always agree with your partner or your parents or your friends. Like, wrestling is no different. And sometimes it does one good to take a step back and just be like, what am I getting out of this based on how much time and effort I'm putting into it? What could I develop a better understanding? Like, I have this amazing character. Great. How do I go above and beyond anybody else in allowing this character to connect with my audience? Or let's say, you want to expand repertoire, whatever it is in wrestling, it's always just like any other relationship. It's always a work in progress, and it does one good to zoom out from time to time and just be like, how are we doing here? Could my gear be better? Could I be surrounding myself with people who are closer to my goals than I am right now? Like, there's always little tweaks and adjustments that could happen to get you closer to your goals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I can't have you on here without bringing up, how the hell did you get mixed up with the Lingerie Fighting Championship?
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Lingerie Fighting Championship is an all-female MMA league where they fight in lingerie. It usually happens either in a ring or in an octagon, and it's definitely a spectacle. And this kind of popped up, and again, me wanting to, like, expand my horizons. As a host, ring announcer, and commentator in wrestling, I was getting a lot of work, and I was like, you know what? This really doesn't seem that much different from hosting ring announcing in MMA or boxing. And so through some mutual connections, I was put in touch with Sean Donnelly, who is, I don't know if he's the founder, he's definitely head of production, executive producer, perhaps. I apologize for botching your title, Sean, if you're watching this or listening to this. But
there's no way in hell he is, so don't worry about it.
But yeah, like I just wanted to bring my talent to a different platform, and it was a lot of fun. Like those shows are always a lot of fun. If I remember correctly, the last time I saw you, you got disqualified for gouging somebody's eye. Is that
Something like
correct?
that.
Yeah,
Something like that. I got in
it's
a
been a
lot of
few years.
trouble over there. Lingerie championship fight. Um, you know, is it still going on?
No. So it's still a thing. I don't know that there are any shows scheduled for 2024 yet. And usually it's, I might do last year I think I only did one show. So I'm not really sure what the latest is with that as far as like development deals or shows or what exactly is happening with it.
Here's why I stopped being involved is it just seemed like there was like a lot of stuff behind the scenes going on. I'm not really clear or care what it was.
Right.
And like it was somehow affecting like the efficiency of the shows that they were having, because at first I thought it was so awesome. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is so much fun. And like, really going in there and like, really
Oh,
getting in there.
they're
Like,
mixing it up. Y'all were mixing it
like
up.
it was like people want to think just because I do wrestling that I was in there and it was just this whole choreographed thing. It's like I would be down for days after
Yeah.
LFC shows, dude.
Yeah.
But they were fun and it was really cute and I loved the whole like marketing vibes about it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I never got involved in like what was going on. I just kind of just showed up and did my job. So
Exactly.
it seemed like it went away, but then it seemed like it didn't. So I wasn't like, I don't know. It's like a headache. So I just don't deal with it.
Every now, I'm the same as you. Like I want less than nothing to do with whatever's happening backstage with drama or politics or whatever else. I don't care. Do you want me on your show? Great. Let's do some business.
Right.
So I would show up, just make sure that I have all my notes. I have all the segments. Like I know what's happening. Usually the way it works on my end is I just email Sean and say, anything coming up? And if he says, yeah, we got these dates, and I'm like, okay, here are the ones I'm available for, or here are the ones I'm not. And we just go from there. So, at this point, your guess is as good as mine what the future of Lingerie Fighting Championship is. But yeah, Sean knows how to get a hold of us if he wants us there.
Well, I think you did an amazing job. And it was so cool when I did my first show and I was like, whoa, what is this? And like, because, it was all new to me. I know that they had done a couple. Like I was kind of earlier on, but like not at the very beginning.
Right.
So it was just a cool way of like how wrestling always finds me. And there you go. I was over there and then, a couple other gals there that were wrestlers. So it was just a good old time. So another awesome fact about you, AJ, is that you are ordained minister.
I am. Yep. Not religious.
Tell me about
absolute least, but ordained minister.
So tell me all about that. Like why, how?
Yeah. So that came about because in 2016, I won Dwayne Johnson's Rock the Promo competition, which is what launched his YouTube channel. And so like in short, wrestling legends would evaluate promos sent in by anybody. Anybody could send in a promo. I had this Broseph character that I was really like feeling good about. And to make a long story short, after getting nods from Kurt Angle, Christian, Cody Rhodes, Mick Foley, Edge, and then The Rock himself in person, I was declared the winner of the Rock the Promo Championship. Thank you. And so this was in like September of 2016. And so again, I was just kind of like, how can I use this fun little feather in my cap to grow my talent, like to pursue new horizons, but also like bring it back to wrestling as much as possible. Because like you, it's like, it's always been wrestling for me. Like I can go out and do commercials and movies and video games and competitions and stuff, but like I inevitably always come back to wrestling, which is like super exciting nowadays, by the way. I'm so pumped about where wrestling's at. So I win Rock the Promo and I'm like, what am I not doing right now? Because I was doing Hoodslam, obviously. I was doing pro wrestling shows all up and down the West Coast. I was now doing boxing. I was doing MMA. I was hosting like fundraisers and music festivals. I'm like, what public speaking venture have I not tapped into yet? And I was like, I want to be a wedding officiant. Like, I want to be the person that's like, rather than some like old, withered, like uncharismatic, just kind of boring person. I was like, let's bring some fun to like marrying people. And so it's the easiest certification in the world. It takes like $20 in 10 minutes, and anybody can be an ordained minister. And so since 2017, I've written and conducted 23 wedding ceremonies.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I mean, I've always been a good writer, and so like, it's not just boring, dearly beloved. Like, it's like I actually have meetings with the engaged couple, and I'm like, how did you meet? What inside jokes do you two have about each other? Are there any struggles that you two overcame that made you inevitably stronger? What was the proposal like? What quirks do you two have for each other? Do you have any nicknames for each other? Like, I make each ceremony so uniquely their own, and my kind of default is like heartfelt, but with a dash of humor, because it's a celebration. It's a celebration of love that's been in the making oftentimes for years and years at a time. People don't just want to sit there through a half hour of whatever. Like, people want to feel the love that these two humans are feeling for each other. And like, what a treat for me to literally be standing between them, and just, I can feel it. I can feel them loving each other. And they've never loved each other more than in that exact moment when they're getting married. And it's a weird, I don't know how to describe it other than I can absolutely feel it when I'm standing between them. And so it's just such a joy. It's just such a joy to be able to write the ceremony that's going to unite two people who are madly in love with each other for the rest of their lives.
Oh, I love that. That is so freaking awesome.
Thank you.
Positive vibes to you on that.
Thank
So
you.
something I like to share with the listeners is something that we've recently talked about, which is, you have helped me in my personal life. Because back in the Hoodslam days, there's been a time or two that I've been very stressed out about whatever. And with the calmest energy and with your calm smile, you'd say,
Yeah.
it's probably fine.
Probably
Such a simple
fine.
thing. It's probably
Yeah.
fine. And when you would say it, it's like the first emotion is, no, but wait, didn't you just hear what I said? But then you go, wait, well, he said it's probably fine.
Yeah. It's not guaranteed
Yeah.
to be fine.
It's probably fine.
Probably fine. Yeah. Chances are it'll be okay.
So through all these years, there's been so many times where I've used that. I'm like, it's probably fine. And you do not know how many times, and I'm talking some very serious freaking times. And there was that sentence that you told me way back over there when we're hood slamming it up. It's probably fine. And there's even times Danielle will be like, it's probably fine. And then she's like, yeah, it's probably fine. And then I remember we came up with, it is fine when everything works out. It is fine.
Yeah.
So that was like what kind of sparked me to reach out to you. And I was like, you know what? Let me get him on Vampire Radio, because like I said, I think you have such a cool, it's like a different kind of a story. You did these competitions that were always wrestling involved and advanced in them even. And then you've even done some stuff with WWE, right? Where you did some in-ring stuff. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I did some extra work with WWE whenever they would come to the Western US. I got destroyed in an enhancement match, which was my first time in a WWE ring. And of course, I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. It's happening. My mom was there. It was great. I've also, I'd be a security guard from time to time. I think my most notable WWE TV appearance was back in June of 2019 as one half of the Yolo County Tag Team Champions, where we had these cardboard belts.
Right.
Myself and Dave Dutra, who I've known for years through the NorCal wrestling scene, like, and one of my favorite opponents, by the way. He and I, he actually, funny story, he loaned me his gear for that so we would look like a tag team, because I just brought like brosive stuff, and like my regular wrestling gear is just really, really boring. And so he actually loaned me gear so we looked like a tag team. So I was actually wearing his like boots and trunks and everything. But it was great. Like, it was a lot of fun. And you know, every time WWE comes to town, I'm like, hey, if you need extra work, like, I'm around and interested. Like, it's nice seeing the people that I know there. And it's always just fun being in that environment. To me, it's still fun being in that environment. So there are far worse ways to make money and eat amazing catering food.
There you go. I made in with those catering people when I worked there. I was like,
Nice.
and they were good to me. They were good to me. The thing is I think people sometimes, and rightfully so, I get it, can get so distracted with trying to just get that contract that they're not stepping back for just a second and realizing that, like in your case, you know, you said you knew this guy from like NorCal scene, you already were like cool with him, he was your favorite opponent. So you get to share a moment. Like, you
Yeah.
get to share this moment where it's like, who cares what the outcome is right now? We're in a WWE ring. We're in a WWE arena with
Yep.
the WWE crowd,
Ron
with the
G.
freaking cardboard freaking like, you know, like, it doesn't get any better than that in that moment. And so
Right.
I feel that sometimes people that maybe they get discouraged, I know some of them, they get discouraged because they're always just like an extra, or they just do a time, like, you know, squash match or whatever. It's like, I understand the frustration, and I understand being disappointed in the passion, like you were talking about, but they're not seeing what they're experiencing in that moment, and how many people, I know it's cliche, how many people would die to be in that spot, but it's
Right.
really true. And it's like, yeah, maybe it's not the big picture fulfilling, but the little moment, like, it's like no one can take that away. I
Right.
don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like, you know, you hear stories about somebody like getting signed on the spot, somebody pulling somebody into Vince's office and being like, you got to hear this story, or you got to see this guy or girl or whatever it is. It's like, it's not, I mean, they happen, but you can't expect something like that to be commonplace. Like, it's so rare for something like that to happen, which is what makes a good story, is that it gets out and it's just like, oh my God, like, they were signed on the spot. Like, it's not unheard of, obviously, but even if you're just being asked to get squashed in an enhancement match, they're asking you. They could have asked one of the other 6 or dozen extras, but they're asking you to do this. They want to get a closer look at you. They want to see how you handle this moment. And so, yeah, like, it is important to kind of, you're there to help the show. However, as an extra, your job is to help out the show however you are asked. So if they say jump, you ask how high. Maybe you just jump as high as you can, and hopefully they're happy with that and go from there. But it's just, you know, even now, like, as I said, I'm 40, and so it's still fun. It's still fun for me, and I've gotten to a point in my career where even if I am backstage at WWE, it's less like, oh my God, like, I gotta, you know, oh, hello, sir, nice to meet you, and walking on eggshells and everything. Like, you know, during this time in 2019, I got to the point where I was like, what happens if I just sit down and strike up a conversation with somebody? And it went great. Like, just chatted, not like, hey, I have this idea, I want to pitch something to you. It was just like, hey, you know, I really enjoyed your match last week. Like, oh, thanks, you know, I appreciate that. Like, just they're all just people. They're just people.
Totally. You know, you just triggered something to me. It's so funny. Like, I don't know why this is even coming to me right now. When I was in WWE, during when I would be in catering, even though like I didn't feel my job was ever on the line because I had such a specific like character,
Mm-hmm.
just in general, I have a lot of anxiety that I deal with, especially before I became a medicator with cannabis. And when I was in WWE at the beginning, I wasn't a medicator yet. It was like later on into it. So I was always really, really nervous. And so what I did to like feel better was I would see like the writers or the producers or the wardrobe people, all like the production type of people. And I felt real comfortable with them because of my background in acting and stuff like that. And I always found it real intriguing, like the behind the scenes. So to combat my anxiety and not wanting to like step on anyone's toes as far as talent went, I would go and talk to those people. And then later I found out that was partially why some people thought I was always politicking, because they thought I was sitting there with the writers trying to like get more TV time or this, and that, when really I was sitting there talking about like Disneyland or like whatever, like just normal, like whatever.
Yeah.
And so I just throwing that out there, like it was a shock to me, but like it's interesting because I would see, not to make it a political thing, but I would see like a guy do it and they wouldn't look at it that way, where they looked at me like I was trying to be all up on the writers, and I had no idea. I was just talking about Disneyland, man, and the Munsters. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So anyways, thanks for that therapy right there. Thanks for triggering me, AJ. Thanks a lot.
Of course. I mean, we'll talk it out on the air. It's fine. It's probably fine.
It's probably fine. So another thing that is a big part of your life, I think, it's at least a ritual, is you go to Burning Man, right?
Yeah. So it's funny you bring that up, because that's actually where It's Probably Fine kind of found me, because like Burning Man, because like Burning Man, for those who don't know, it is this week-long festival out in the desert, like in Nevada, with the most mind-blowing art and freedom of expression and creativity and just welcoming community you've ever met in your life. I cannot say enough good things about it. I've been 8 times. You may have heard that even this year it got like rained out for a couple days. It was still the best burn I've ever been to. It was so much fun. It was exquisite. And it's one of those environments where it's a harsh environment. Like, it's dusty, it's hot, it's rainy, it gets muddy. You might be dehydrated, you might be sunburned. Like, it's every day is an adventure out there. And so it was kind of like early on in my experience at Burning Man, if I wasn't sure about something, for me it was always, it's probably fine, because everybody there takes such good care of each other, and without wanting anything from you, just because it feels good to watch out for other people. So it's like, if I thought something bad was going to happen, I know I've got people to take care of me. There are plenty of resources available, even if I don't have them with me at that moment. And again, people are so generous and warm that they're quick to just give you whatever resources you need. There's no money out there. You don't buy anything. There's no like merchandise. There's no corporate sponsorships. It's just, and I use that to kind of like ease into this experience that is Burning Man, which is I literally have a hard time finding the words to describe how fantastic it is. So the fact that you bring it up after shortly talking about It's Probably Fine, if you were ever wondering where I got it from, it was born at Burning Man.
Full circle. So what is like, because I'm not like, I mean, obviously I've known about Burning Man for a long time. It's just never been something I got into. But correct me if I'm wrong. Is there now like poser Burning Man people that come like that? Like they were trying to make it seem in the media. Here's the thing. I'm only talking about the media, which I feel point in case of It's Probably Fine, and you were having the best burn ever. The media was making it seem like it was something completely different. And so the media, I felt, also made it seem like there's people who go there that like go there to like, because it's a cool thing to do. They're not so much like the poser-esque.
Yeah.
So does that exist there? And if so, how is it? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean that's there. That's definitely there. You get celebrities and influencers and people who may not have the utmost regard for the spirit of Burning Man. Everybody's welcome. Everybody's welcome at Burning Man. They're not going to turn anybody away. I think everybody has their own reasons for going. And I think for the burner culture that's been around for a while, yeah, we may not feel like it's the best use of the event to just take as many likable, shareable, Instagrammable pictures and videos as possible. But, your reasons are your own. Like, your burn experience is your own. And so, like, yes, some people I think make a bigger deal out of it than it needs to be, but the spirit of the event is still well intact.
That's what I guess I was getting at, because sometimes you'll have something that, like, I guess it becomes kind of pop culture-y or like a cool thing, even though
Cool
it's like a
thing.
misfit thing. You
Burning
know what I
Man's a
mean? So
cool,
it's like,
mysterious thing. Yeah.
I just felt like, from what I understand before, I guess it got a little bit more mainstream, I guess, that it was a very kind of like personal, kind of like deep thing. It's like
Yeah.
an experience. It's not just a party. There's more to it than that. And I was just really curious if that, like, the people who kind of jump on a bandwagon kind of thing, if that kind of disturbs that energy, or if it's just like, whatever, do what you want. We're over here.
Yeah. Yes to all of that. Yes, it's arguably the best party in the world. Yes, it can also be a deeply moving, introspective journey into oneself. It can be both of those at the same time. It can be a place where you just relax and take in some amazing art. It can be a place where you just dance or attend any of the thousands and thousands of workshops and lectures. Take in live entertainment, the likes of which you've probably never seen. See amazing DJs and musicians perform. Like, there's so much to do at Burning Man. It's 80,000 people. It's like one of the 4 biggest cities in Nevada when it's actually happening. I think behind Reno, Vegas, and Henderson, maybe Carson City as well. So there are so many ways to experience Burning Man that I don't think there's really a wrong way to do it.
There you go.
And so it's not like you guys do your thing, we'll be over here. It's like when our experiences overlap, regardless of the reason, let's just celebrate the fact that our experiences are overlapping.
Who cares?
Let's make a new friend. Let's try a new thing. Let's stay up later than we have in a long time. Let's dance in ways we never have before. Like, it's really expansive is the way I like to describe it. It's an expansive experience.
Cool. Well, it's cool to hear that, because the reason why I even bring it up is it seems like when things like that happen, sometimes it can ruin the original, like, intent or experience of something, or the whole purpose of whatever the thing is. And then when that kind of happens, it can make a shift to where it's kind of never the same. So it's cool to hear that even though there's a shift, just because society's different, blah, 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 blah. You got younger people now, blah, blah, blah. That it doesn't disrupt the original, like, intent and vibe and energy, to where it's like somebody that's been going forever is like, oh, it's just not the same anymore. Like, that's the worst, when you like have something and then you go, it's not the same anymore. Why go? Because the people, like I said, I've known that go all the time and they've been going for ages. They seem to, like, that's their safe place, I guess you would say. And so, like, that's why personally I was like, has that safe space been disrupted? But so it's nice to hear you guys are maintaining it over there at the burn.
Yeah. Well, also, change is inevitable. Like, the more people that find out Burning Man and have the guts to actually check it out, the more different it becomes. That's just a fact of life. Nothing stays the same ever, ever, ever.
True.
I love introducing people to Burning Man. I brought my girlfriend with me last year. It was her first and my 7th. And just watching watching her get it was like such a joyful experience. Like, and Burning Man means something different to everybody. Like if Burning Man is just your place to dress up and dance, that's okay. If you want to take pictures of yourself dressing up and dancing and share it on Instagram, that's fine too. Like, I don't know that, unless you're going specifically to like sabotage the spirit of the event or to prevent it from happening for some reason, that's the only wrong reason you're going to Burning Man. Like, I think Burning Man is a strong enough culture, and it's not just Burning Man. Like, Burning Man culture is going to continue because it stands for freedom of expression, acceptance, hospitality, taking care of each other, self-reliance, artistic expression. Like, all of that is Burning Man culture. And I think there's something to be said for that everywhere, not just at Burning Man. Because there are regional Burning Man events that happen all over the world. They're not officially associated with the Burning Man organization, but the culture is so strong that even if the actual burn itself, they were like, bring it. Like, what do you got? What do you think you're going to give us? How are you going to stop us? Like, Burning Man welcomes everybody. And I think there's strength in that. Its integrity is strong enough that it can welcome everybody and still be as special as it is.
That's really cool. Like, it's really like, especially being a person that just really doesn't know anything about it. That's very interesting. I want to research Burning Man.
You gotta go. Look
I don't know about that. I'm scared to go.
Oh, I get it. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
And I'm very sensitive to energy. So like I get like it's, and I know it's a lot of energy.
It's a lot of energy. It's a
lot of different energy. And so to me, I'm the type of person that if I'm around certain energies, it can really drain me and it make me feel sick. So like, and it's not to say that like I'm saying that that's bad energy that does it. It's just like how it affects me. So it's like, I think I should just admire it from afar.
That's fair. I mean, as I like to say, this might sound a little woo-woo, but like when the time is right, you'll go. And if you never go, that's fine. But if it calls to you and you feel compelled to answer, it's there.
Fair enough. Well, I know you got to get going here soon. So can you tell everyone where they can find your stuff, what you got going on, etc.?
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for having me on. It's always a joy to talk with you, and I'm glad we had a chance to catch up. Let's see, depending on when this drops, the biggest Hoodslam of the year is this Friday, December 1st in Oakland. Get your tickets on eventbrite.com. It's also available on Fight Plus. It's free with your Fight Plus subscription, as are dozens, if not hundreds, of other pro wrestling and combat sports events. Let's see. I'll be in Lompoc, California, hosting, ring announcing, and doing commentary for Best of the West on Saturday, December the 9th. I will be hosting a video game convention in Sacramento on Sunday, December 17th. I will be presenting at CES, the tech convention in Vegas, the first week of the new year. I'll be hosting at the Super Bowl in Vegas again, like 3 weeks later. If you want me to marry you, email marriedbyaj@gmail.com. If you want to book me to host, ring announce, or provide the live or recorded commentary for literally any live event, hit up IamAJKirsch@gmail.com, and you can find me on social media at AJ Kirsch, which is AJKIRSCH on all the things.
There you have it. Well, thank you so much for being my second guest here on Vampire Radio.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I look forward to seeing more of your journey, amigo.
Thank you. And I'm privileged to be a part of yours.
So, what'd you guys think? Did you enjoy the episode? I hope you did. I know I did. And a little extra special shout out to Mr. AJ Kirsch. Well deserved, my friend. Well, I'm going to be back next Monday. I am going to try my damnedest to get a new episode to you guys every Monday. That's my commitment to you. And just trying to make things more consistent over here now that my personal life, as crazy as it is, has simmered down in some parts of it. So I'm able to give the podcast and everything more of my attention. it's really hard when I have to like spread it throughout the week. It's going to be really nice to be able to have like a day to just focus on it. So we'll see what happens. My infamous, we'll see what happens. And the next episode, I'm not quite sure yet what material I may or may not revisit, or if it's just going to be a whole new one altogether. You just never know over here at Vampire Radio. And don't forget, if you sign up on Patreon to be a Vampire Radio VIP, you get to see the video versions of episodes, video versions of, along with I do other videos over there. So just go to the Patreon, become a VIP today. If that's not your thing, I appreciate you just giving this week's episode a listen. Make sure you're following on all the social media. And until next time, I'm Shelly from Cali, and I'll be smiling all of you later. Adios.
Vampire Radio. Hurry back, and remember to bring your death certificates. Hurry back.
You a little bit nervous today?
Feel great.